Welcome to the Want to Tempo Us podcast. I'm David Taynor. For nearly 3 decades, I've coached football and worked relentlessly to develop our greatest resource, people. This podcast is built around the lessons I've learned from players, coaches, parents, mentors, teammates, and competitors who have shaped my life. Every episode follows the same formula: story, then lesson, then application. Let's get to today's podcast. Want to Tempo Us. It was probably the summer of 1988 or 1999. I was 12 or 13 years old at the time. My brother, Chuck Vogelpohl, pulled up in front of our house on Hague Avenue on his motorcycle and told me to get on. We were headed to Westside Barbell. This would be the first opportunity I had in order to lift at the gym. At the time, Westside Barbell wasn't commercialized like it is today. It isn't a t-shirt shop that you can buy shit on Facebook. There were no podcasts, no fitness influencers, no YouTube channels, no motivational speakers posting clips on social media. Westside wasn't a famous brand. It was a gym, and not just any gym. It was the hardest gym in the world. Back then, Westside was on Demorest Avenue, and Louie Simmons was experimenting with a public gym in the front and the strongest gym in the world in the back. The front room was open to anybody that would pay. The back room wasn't. And I was just a kid, so I wasn't allowed anywhere near it. Every once in a while, I might try to sneak a peek into the back room to see who might be training in there. I remember on that day getting off of Chuck's motorcycle and burning the shit out of my leg on the exhaust pipe. It hurt like hell. It hurt bad, but I didn't flinch. I couldn't flinch. After all, my brother was one of the strongest men in the world, and I couldn't show that sign of weakness. So I acted like nothing happened, walked into the gym, and proceeded to get my ass kicked. After the workout, I was literally burnt and beaten. But I knew one thing for sure. I wanted to come back. And not just for a workout, not for just a week, not for a month, not for a summer to get ready for the upcoming football season. I'd come back for the next 10 years. You see, I wasn't there because I wanted people to like me or think I was lifting at the strongest gym because it was a status symbol. I wasn't there because I needed somebody to accept me. I wanted to be there because I saw something. I saw men operating at a level I'd never seen before. Different standards, a different level of discipline, different expectations. Those different expectations, they delivered different results. And I wanted to place the table, to steal the program line, okay, a seat at the table. Not because somebody gave it to me, but because I was going to go and earn it. Most of the guys training at the gym at that time had one goal: to become the strongest human being on the planet. My goal was a little bit different, though. I wanted to be an elite football player, an All-American. Then I wanted to be an elite football coach and a leader. Different destinations, but the same standards. And the longer I was around Westside, the more I realized something. The secret wasn't motivation. Nobody in that gym talked about motivation. Nobody really gave a shit how you felt. Nobody cared whether you were inspired that day. What mattered was whether you were showing up and whether you put in the work. Did you deliver upon the standard? When you're around people that are operating at an elite level, one of two things happen. You either get intimidated and quit, or you become driven to achieve. I wasn't intimidated. I wanted to chase them. I wanted to catch them. And I wanted to beat them. And looking back nearly 40 years later, I can trace almost every meaningful success in my life back to the lessons that I learned in an environment like that. Not just in football, not just in coaching, in life. Because personal excellence isn't built on motivation. It's built on discipline. It's built on systems. And it's built on the backs of people who refuse to let you lower your standard. Remember this: all great days start with a bar on your back in the squat rack. So why do all great days start with a bar on your back in the squat rack? It's not because the squat is some magical exercise. Although I can promise you, in our family, you're expected to squat and you're expected to squat big. I happen to be in a family that has 2 individuals that have squatted over 1,100 pounds. I've squatted over 800 pounds, and I'm the weak guy in the family. Been out squatted by over 300 pounds. But it's not because it's some magical exercise. And not because everybody needs to be a power lifter and squat. It's because sooner or later, the load belongs to you. You get a chance to get under the bar, walk it out, and to squat it, and to start your day there. Well, why? Nobody can squat the weight for you. Well, nobody can prepare for you. Nobody can execute for you. The bar doesn't care about your intentions. The bar doesn't care about your excuses. The bar only responds to what you do. And that's true in football. It's true in business. It's true in parenting. It's true in life. It's your discipline, your systems, your preparation, and your fundamentals. And all that eventually gets tested under a load. That's the lesson. When the weight gets heavy, that's when ownership begins. And that's why I believe personal excellence starts with 4 basic fundamentals: discipline, systems, challenges, and standards. Fundamental number 1, discipline over motivation. So let's start with motivation. Motivation is overrated. It is a feeling. Discipline wins every time. And that's because it is a decision. To steal a line from Jocko Willink, he says, discipline equals freedom. Well, what does that really mean? Discipline equals freedom means you're not controlled and governed by your emotions. Someone who's controlled and governed by their emotions are going to respond what I call below the line. They're going to be on impulse, right? They're going to act impulsively. They're going to be on autopilot, and they're resistant to change. Now, a person who makes decisions based upon their discipline are going to be intentional, which means they're guided by what are their desired outcomes. They're going to have processes to achieve it, and they're going to develop skill. So again, motivation is a fickle friend. It comes and goes. In every elite organization or place that I've been, to go back and reference the time at Westside Barbell, I can't ever remember hearing Louie Simmons talk about somebody's feelings while I was at the gym. It was never about feelings. It was about showing up, doing the work, and producing. And I can't say that I've ever heard my brother Chuck talk about feelings. And in building a championship program at Urbana University and going from 2008, where we went 1-10 and got punched in the mouth repetitively, to 2009 and beating the University of Dayton at their place, and then winning 2 conference championships, I can promise you, feelings were not part of the equation. The bar of life doesn't care about how you feel. It cares about whether you produce or not. The game of football doesn't care. And honestly, businesses don't care. Are you meeting the bottom lines or not? So, motivation. Think about it this way. When you're really sore or tired, are you motivated to work and train? No. But if you don't, you're going to go backwards. You're not going to grow. So you got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. So why do we do mat trainings for those of you guys that are mat drills, for those of you guys that went through college football? You probably at some point in time during the off season had to get up at 5 o'clock in the a.m. and work at your hardest. Were you motivated to get up? Maybe the first day. But in the second week, day 8, 9, 10 of those mat drills, you're not motivated anymore. It's driven by discipline. When it comes to summer conditioning, prior to the start of camp, it's 90 plus degrees throughout the summer. Are you motivated in order to get out there and do the work? Or are you building your level of self-discipline? Through difficult moments in a game. It's a quote from Ray Lewis. He said, I don't want to know about the guy that is going to fight with me in the first quarter. I want to know the one that's going to fight alongside with me in the fourth quarter when we're down 28 points. Motivation, again, is overrated. That discipline is what matters from a parenting perspective. Nobody feels like having all the difficult conversations that you're going to have as you mentor and raise your kids, especially as competitors. But great and elite parents are going to have them anyway. In business, elite performers don't negotiate with themselves when they're not motivated. They execute. People who accomplish the most aren't more motivated. They're just more disciplined. They put the work in, and they've learned not to negotiate with themselves. Now, discipline is what gets you moving and keeps you moving in the right direction. But systems and processes are what keep you moving towards your goals. Fundamental number 2, systems over goals. Now, your goals provide a direction. They provide the daily results and the outcomes that you want. But systems is what creates the results. Everybody likes to talk about their goals. Those are easy to talk about. Very few people want to put the time into developing and building a system that supports reaching those goals. Simple example. You want to lose 30 pounds. That's easy to talk about. Now, developing the system where you got to train 4 days a week in the weight room, do cardio 3 days a week, have a nutrition plan, follow that nutrition plan, get the appropriate hydration and the necessary sleep. In football, everybody wants to win a championship. Championship is a great goal. Build a national championship program. Build a conference championship program. But are you willing to invest and build the system to do it? Leaders create culture. Culture drives behaviors or actions. Behaviors or actions deliver results. So do you have a cultural development program? How are you going to build the infrastructure to support that? What does your off season look like? What's the strength and conditioning program and system that you're going to use? What's your individual development plans for each and every single one of your positions? How are you developing your practice plans in order to take those individual plans and carry them over to the team format? Do you have a system in place in order to teach someone how to watch film? Or are you just saying they go watch the film? Do you have a recruiting system in place? The system and the infrastructure for a program is what delivers the results of building a championship program that everybody wants. In business, everybody wants to grow. But are you willing to invest the system, a system that's capable of producing that growth? So have a goal, have an outcome in mind, build a system to support it, build the infrastructure, execute the fundamentals. So Westside Barbell, which started this whole talk about it, this little tiny gym in Columbus, Ohio, that for the majority of the time that I actually trained there was on Demorest in a blacked out room on a strip mall that if you looked at it from the outside, you wouldn't even know it was even open for business, which it wasn't unless you were an elite powerlifter. It wasn't built on the goals. The goal was to get your name up on that board in there, to win world championships, to set world records. Those were goals, but it was built upon the conjugate system that Louie Simmons had developed for years, and it was an operation and a system of discipline. It was there. Sundays, speed bench. Mondays, max effort, lower body. Wednesdays, max effort, upper body. Friday, speed squat, box squat, put the bar on your back. It was a system that was designed, followed, and the buy-in to that system delivered upon the goals. Now, I also will tell you the culture within there was built upon the idea of every single day you showed up as a competitor. And you showed up and you were going to be challenged. The guys that led the challenge in the areas you're going, the ones that were getting ready for a meet, but on every single day that you showed up, you better be ready for a fucking challenge. Because somebody was going to try to take your heart and soul in what you do. Competitors need that challenge. So why do competitors need a challenge? Well, it's pretty simple. Challenges are tools. They're like a whetstone. So what is a whetstone? A whetstone is a tool that you use to sharpen an edge, sharpen a knife, kitchen knife, a chisel. You're sharpening an edge. So in my own evaluation of myself, so something I do with my team during the off season is we'll have what we call to actions, and then we have challenges. So a call to action is an internal self-analysis. So from the time I started high school all the way through probably my first 5 years of being a college football coach. So over that period of time, which was about, 13, 14 years, I trained in the weight room 4 days a week minimum, every week, regardless of the situation. If a workout day fell on Christmas, it fell on Thanksgiving, it fell on my birthday, it fell on any special occasion, didn't matter. You still got up and you got your workout in. So I did that for over a decade. About 4 or 5 years into my college coaching career, and it's an excuse, so I'll say it for what it is. The amount of hours and time that we put in football and in football coaching, that I started to let myself slide a little bit as far as the workouts were concerned. And it was really an up and down battle from 2005-ish through 2019. At times I got myself in really good shape. A lot of times in the off season I would. In season would fall apart. During recruiting, when you're out on the road running everywhere, it's much easier to stop and eat fast food. The conditioning, the lifting fell by the wayside for multiple years. It happens to a lot of coaches, happens to a lot of people when the demands of life seem to get in the way rather than being a motivator to be your best version of yourself. Well, in 2019, we got done at the end of the season. We made a commitment as a family to move back to Ohio, for me to spend a little bit more time being a dad versus just being a college football coach. And as we were making the move back, COVID hit. And during COVID, you had a lot of time to do some internal self-reflection. I made a decision that I needed to get myself into shape. Started out doing something called fasted cardio for a little bit, and then found out about this thing called 75 Hard from a best friend of mine, Rich Newsom, let me know about it and challenged me to do it with him. So 75 Hard, you spend 75 straight days doing 2 workouts a day, one inside, one outside, 45 minutes of length or longer. You can find out more information on this on Andy Frizella's website or through him. But you do 75 straight days of workouts, follow an exact nutritional plan, no cheat days, no cheat meals, no cheat moments. Drink at least a gallon of water every single day. Read at least 10 pages of an entrepreneurial book, hard copy, not listening to an audio book, entrepreneurial or leadership in nature. And then you take a selfie every day. Not my favorite thing to do. In fact, one of my former players, who's now the head coach that I work for at Defiance College, said, if you're taking a selfie, you're violating one of the man rules. So I took it because it was the discipline behind the program of 75 Hard, but I wasn't about to be posting it. So I found out about it. So I started doing that during 75 Hard with Rich Newsom, former teammate and best man at my wedding. I would then continue on to do 75 Hard two more times. Once with my nephew, Zach Vanscoy, played football at Ohio Northern, and then with Sam Kinder, who is dad of one of my daughter's teammates on Indiana Magic Gold. So 3 different times. It was a challenge. While doing it the first time, I read a book called Way of the Seal, and he mentioned in that book, Mark Devine, 20X challenges, which in synopsis is figure out something that you really like doing, and then challenge yourself to do something 20 times as hard as what any human being usually does. Or find something you hate doing and challenge yourself to do something 20 times harder than a normal human being would ever do. I've always hated distance running. I'm an offensive lineman by nature, 250-pound plus man. I cannot stand distance running, but I challenged myself and ran a marathon. Did all the training leading up to it too, which was the biggest part of it. 20-mile plus runs every week for about 2 months as part of the process. Then I ran a 50K, challenged by one of my former one of my former players challenged me to run a 50K, the April Fool's 50K trail race, so I did it. This past year during the winter, as we finished 75 hard, the third time I did it, I then challenged myself to do 75 straight days of 5Ks. So since 2020, I've found different challenges in order to challenge myself to train and train hard. And I think as a competitor, we need these challenges. Again, like I said, it's your whetstone. It sharpens your edge. And I don't think it necessarily changes who you are, but it sharpens who you've always been. So I know it sharpened me. So the challenge was never really truly the point. It was always just a tool in order to get there. To get to it, and the challenge provided really 4 structures there. It provides accountability. Accountability provides structure, focus on a goal, and urgency to go and get shit done. I think every competitor truly needs a mountain to climb. So if there's not one directly in front of you that is designed to keep you physically in shape, you need to design it, find it. Not because the mountain changes them, because the mountain reveals who they are, taking that next step forward. And when you're a competitor, you play competitive sports your entire life, you have tons of examples of when these things show up. Training camp in football. You extend to the playoffs, big games, big moments, fourth quarters, where pressure reveals your preparation. It reveals your discipline within your preparation. So I think these challenges are necessary to create the discipline that you need in order to follow through. That discipline creates consistency. The systems that you follow and the challenges you have creates the progress, and the challenge create clarity towards reaching the goal. All of that is designed to create the edge that you need to be elite at the things that are important to you. So to revisit the question, why do competitors need these challenges? Simple. It's to create the edge necessary to achieve at a high level. So what is the edge? It's kind of that it factor. And many people will talk about successful individuals as if something they have. The reality is you may have some of it, but you can create it through challenging yourself on an everyday basis. The problems are this. Everybody wants elite performance, but few people are comfortable with what it requires. We say we want competitors. And so competitors make us uncomfortable because of their intensity. We say we want elite salespeople until they become relentless in their pursuit of the sale. We say we want championship teams until the standards become extremely demanding. We say we want excellence until excellence requires extreme sacrifice. I think if you look at every single successful or greatly successful athlete, you're going to see someone who performs on the edge. To steal a term from Tim Grover, they're cleaners, when he was describing Kobe Bryant. People who are on the edge, Tiger Woods, live on that edge. Sometimes the thing about the people on the edge, sometimes they fall off. So the problem isn't creating an edge. The problem is directing the edge. It's honing. And that's where leadership comes in. Having an edge without purpose can become destructive. So you build purpose. Edge with purpose is the right recipe to develop leadership. Competitive people need direction. They don't need suppression. They need direction. The best football teams that I've had have been able to channel their aggression and them being on the edge and are driven to compete with each other. I go back to the 2011 season. Probably the most competitive practice that we had on every single day was, or any single day, was our Fridays prior to game day. People are like, well, I've seen bad teams on Friday, it's like they're trying to save themselves for the game. My 2011 conference championship team at Urbana University basically begged to do 7-on-7, competitive 7-on-7, 1v1s on Friday. And it was one of the most competitive days every single week. More competitive than our games a lot of the times. In 2011, the last 6 games of the season, the average margin of victory we had was 45-9. We averaged over 200 yards on the ground, over 200 yards in the air, and had an average margin of victory of 45-9. But every single one of those Fridays, well, we created an edge by how we practiced. We delivered. Now, you don't want to ever eliminate that edge. You got to let competitors be competitors to function at a high level, to challenge themselves every single day. But you want to channel that aggression and that leadership towards development that's going to be able to go out and produce. That production matters. People who are high producers or people that are pursuing excellence are often viewed as demanding because standards to people who are lower producers, that creates pressure, and they don't like that pressure. But if you're going to develop a culture that is about production mattering, then you need to surround yourself with high producers. Elite people tend to get along with elite people. Underachievers tend to get along with underachievers. You have to develop a culture that is about high achievement and elite people. And in that environment, you need to challenge each other to meet those standards. Kim Scott's book, Radical Candor, has been something that I've used throughout my career. Care deeply and challenge directly. If you care about the success of your people and the success of yourself, then you will challenge yourself directly because the standard is the standard. Underachieving people confuse standards with negativity, and they confuse accountability with criticism. But standards are necessary to achieve, and accountability is the most important ability that we all have. Low achievers will often, too, confuse truth with hostility. The best leaders and the highest achievers understand the difference. Leadership isn't about making people comfortable. It's about challenging people to be great. It's about helping people grow through helping them prepare. The people who have impacted my life the most weren't the easiest on me. They demanded more from me. They refused to let me lower my standards. Leadership starts with leading yourself, not when it's convenient, not when you're motivated, not when conditions are perfect. Every single day. Discipline over motivation. Systems over goals. Standards over feelings. Because personal excellence isn't about becoming somebody else. It's about becoming everything you're capable of becoming. And that journey starts the same place it always has, with the decision to do the work. Thank you for being a part of the 1-2 Tempo Us community. If today's episode brought you value, subscribe so you don't miss future messages. If you know a coach, parent, player, teammate, leader, or competitor who would benefit from this message, share it with them. For additional resources, leadership content, and upcoming projects, visit 12tempous.com. And if there's a question, challenge, or topic you'd like us to discuss in a future episode, we'd love to hear from you. Remember, the game of life is played every day. Focus on what you can influence. Compete relentlessly. Raise the standard. Develop people. Until next time, 1-2 Tempo Us.